ready to build resiliency, create a healthy lifestyle, and overcome adversity with a warrior mindset. This is Define the Fight with Mariah Prussia.
Hey everybody, here we go on this fine Monday morning. It is sunny outside. Let's take full advantage of this weather because you know what? We know what is exactly around the corner. And today I have an amazing woman, and we talk about resiliency, we talk about health, and different ways that we can impact the lives of others. Well, Jana Brushwine is the founder and executive director of Peace Academy, which is a nonprofit childcare and preschool established in 2022. It is driven by a passion to provide high-quality early childhood education. Jana created Peace Academy with a mission to nurture children, enrich parents, and strengthen the community. She has done so many different amazing things and has already expanded to a second location with a focus on nature-based childcare, which, again, we know that nature is free and it's the most underutilized asset for not just children, but for adults alone. So, Jana, I want to thank you for coming on the show because I've known you before you started Peace Academy, but you have done such amazing things and clearly have left an impact in my life. So thank you for coming on Define the Fight.
Thanks so much, Mariah. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you know, you are like a woman, like I say, a jack of all trades. You initially, though, were in the public school system, correct?
I was a public school teacher for 12 years. I did some work with Head Start in summer programming, and then I was the director of a small preschool. And all of those experiences led me to see this great need in the community. And everybody looks when there are things that need to happen and says, why doesn't somebody do something? We're each a somebody that could show up to do something. And I realized that the experiences that I'd had, taking bits and pieces from each of those, I had what it took. And I couldn't wait for someone and say, oh, I hope someone comes out fresh out of college and takes this by the reins. So I realized I had the experience and I thought, I can't live with this regret if I don't do it. So let's try this. And lo and behold, Peace Academy opened in fall of 2022. Each year we've had about 160 students and families partaking. And this year we were so excited to find a space at Living Waters Church where we could really be connected to the outdoors. So we can serve up to 45 kids. We do have a few openings left at that building.
So what is your big vision? So you look at opening in 2022, we're in 2024, merging soon into 2025. Now, opening your second location, is this something that you want to strictly keep within the Fargo-Moorhead area, or is this the curriculum and what you see, like the vision, is it larger where you want to spread even further?
I always tell people, please come and visit. There are no trade secrets. When it comes to kids, we all have to be cognizant of best practice and putting it into place. And so we get a lot of visitors, and I encourage any listener who just, whether you have kids or not, you just want to come and see, is we need to stay at the latest cusp of research and what is best for kids. And that's ever changing. No longer do our old practices of sit in a desk, learn to tie your shoes, say the ABCs work. And it's really not what's best for kids. We're dealing with kids with their biggest opportunity of brain growth from 0 to 5. And yet when you look at how we're filling the roles of who is leading those children, we often think that just anyone can do it. So one of our commitments is really putting highly educated people in front of kids at that most vulnerable state. So how do we grow the profession of early childhood so that we know development, that we're doing best practice, that alongside of I love kids, there's also research and backing to why we're doing what we're doing is so important. So yes, I would love to share what we do and how we do it with anyone who would like to know.
Beautiful. Well, and you had a key statement where it's making sure the staff is educated, right? So sometimes you can grow at such a fast rate and try to, like, I want multiple locations. Like this is my goal. But do you have the individuals that can actually serve in the same manner? Now, you could teach all of the kids yourself, right? When we know that you might be pulling hair out, so on and so forth. But at the same point, you have to have a strong team. And that takes time and that takes development. And we know too that with the shifts of generations that things have changed. So when you're talking about just sitting in a desk, learning the ABCs. I actually had a conversation this weekend when I was at Doubting Thomas Farms with an individual there about, we have the expectation that kids should just sit for 8 hours straight, like, and then reducing physical education. And it doesn't make sense because you're telling them to hone in this energy and just sit in this space, and you expect them to listen. Now, we look at the fact of the brain, the attention span went from 20 seconds before COVID to 8 to 7 seconds now. And now we're asking young kids to sit for a long period of time and be honed in on what you're trying to teach. You're right. The approach has to change, because when you're more hands-on, kids want to grasp, they want to feel, they want to smell, they want to be engaged. And if they're not, you're missing an opportunity for that growth phase for them.
And play is such an important part of that. I won't quote the research perfectly, but it takes 40 times of repetition to really learn something in your brain unless it's done through play. And then I think it's like 5 to 7 times. We have pushed academics down to 3-year-old and 2-year-old, 4-year-old level, and we have reduced this opportunity, this window for play to really create socially, emotionally well-adjusted kids. And I don't know about you, but being asked to do something that's really hard for me before I'm ready causes a lot of anxiety.
100%.
I'm reading a book called The Anxious Generation, and it says we've replaced green time with screen time. And I see an overwhelming number of children who are really struggling with being anxious. And I do believe once we've started to make that young early childhood phase so academic, we've lost an opportunity for them to learn who they really are and what's available to them outdoors, outside of books. And I tell parents when they say, I'd really love to test early to get my child into kindergarten. And I say, please don't. You have these 5 or 6 years of childhood. You can always add more years of learning. You can never add more years to this precious time of childhood. And so our mission, first of all, to nurture kids is so important. Kids need to feel seen, loved, and heard. Sometimes we have big behaviors, and people will say they're just trying to get attention. No, they're longing for relationship. They're longing for the adults, myself included, put down our phones, shut the computer, look me in the eyes, sit with me, be
present.
Yes.
You had mentioned the fact of play and the importance of it. When we were growing up, we would play outside, we would build forts, we would do all those different things. And I think the missing piece too is there's a lot of problem solving that actually occurs in play. So when you try to push a curriculum, we're missing some different things that aren't actually in the curriculum that are developmental skills that come with play. But one note here too is Antonio, when he was 12, my oldest is 18, you brought up a great point about, just the way of looking at different things and pushing in regards to like, okay, this is the checkbox. I got a test for this. He made a comment when we were sitting in a vehicle and we're driving. He goes, Mom, what is life? I said, what do you mean? Can you explain that for me? He's like, well, when we're born, we instantly pretty much go into school. From there, we go into high school. Then we're expected to go to college. And then from college, we work. And then we work until the point that we can't really move much, right? And then we're expected to also enjoy life. But if we're working until we're in our 60s or almost 70s, where is life in that? And I said, you have a great point and a great perspective at such a young age. I said, the reason why we go to school is so that we can learn more, right? So we can increase our knowledge. But then also we have opportunities of, sports, of meeting friends, that social interaction. And I said, and working, it also provides purpose, right? So it gives us the purpose of something that we need, but it puts food on the table. And when we work hard too, also when we look at from a financial perspective, it's not just about providing for ourselves, but how can we give to others? But the point that you're making is also very apparent, and I'm taking this to heart, Antonio. I said, I know I work a lot, and I also need to also stop and recognize that life is so much more than putting the foot on the accelerator. So for me, that was a really good aha moment on Mariah. What is life? You also, as an adult, need to redefine what that looks like. There's a lot of different things that go in, and I think there's so much research out there. But then, too, not only is there research, but sometimes it's getting stuck in that fact of this is what we should do versus how can we shift the dial a little bit here. And you're doing that at Peace Academy. So prior to going into break, you spoke about different like learner-based approaches. What are some of the different things that you are adding in for these young kids that are coming into the Peace Academy?
Absolutely. So all of our staff are trained in the Nurtured Heart approach, which is a very strengths-based approach. I'm going to speak to my own parenting moment, which is not a proud one. My daughter was 3, and she was sassing me, and I was at my wit's end. And I thought, how do I get through to this girl? And in the end, it was me screaming in her face. And I remember thinking, if I could just get her to cry, I would know that I had broken her and I got in.
Control.
Oh, like it makes me tear up now, because who would have ever thought the day that they put her in my arms that I would scream in her face to control her? I don't want a girl that can be controlled. So this approach is very near and dear to my heart. I've been using it for 17 plus years. And the tenets of it is we will give our eyeballs, our laps, our energy, our relationship when things are going well. Too often when our kids are behaving, we just walk on by and say, whew, thank goodness. We show up with a lot of energy, spit, rage when things aren't going well. Well, where we give our energy, we get more of. Kids feel most celebrated in those moments. So flipping the script, like Mariah, I can look at you right now and say your eye contact right now shows such respect. It shows such interest. Thank you for being present here with me today. When we speak to kids in that way, as young as 1, 2, 3, 4, we give energy to what we want more of. It's growing those characteristics that make them a good human, not that make them sit in a desk and check the right boxes. We have all of our staff is trained in it with a minimum of 6 hours of training. We offer that training free to every family who attends.
Beautiful.
Every staff person takes at least 6 hours of continuing ed because it is a shift in default. That's not how we were raised. That's not how our culture was. It was you show up when you need to send kids to the principal's office. And when things were going well, you just took it for granted. And it has become something that people say, oh, so we're just going to walk around and tell kids great things and just elevate them. The real truth is it has to be truthful information and it has to be evidence. Not, Mariah, you're the greatest person in the world.
Right.
BS.
Well, and the reality is if you constantly do that, it's not the same. It doesn't feel like you're actually giving me an affirmation. It just feels like they're just saying that to say that.
Yep.
But then too, you're also, if they're not, then you're adding like false hope, or you're just building this facade that isn't correct.
We talk about it as though you wouldn't feed your child Skittles for every meal. They taste good for a moment. A good job feels good.
Right.
But what if not all of us are going to have kids who are on the honor roll and on the homecoming court? So what about the average kid? I see how difficult algebra is for you, and I see you setting aside time each and every night, and I know you hate it. What does it say about your grit, about your resilience in this moment, that you are committing to doing this? Do you see how that can feel different?
Oh, 100%. Because, my oldest son and I, we had conversations back and forth where there were moments where, again, putting stuff aside. And as a parent too, like, how can I help? How can I help? You can't help, so on and so forth, where it did become a battle. But the reality is he won the battle on his own. So that is the key thing, where there's support. And it's just like, getting his report card when he was close to being a senior, where it was like, okay, here's the thing. He's like, Mom, can I keep those grades? Because he was behind in like almost 15 assignments in every single class towards the end of the year last year or 2 years ago, and pushed. And he's like, well, Mom, it's like they want me to fail. I'm like, no, they don't. They're pointing out that work needs to be done. right? And only you can do that work. I can help you in the best way I can. Some of the stuff I don't understand because I was taught differently, right? But he pushed and he pushed. And then once he received his grades, he did all of it. He goes, Mom, are you going to keep those grades? I was like, yeah. I said, unless you'd like to keep them. And he goes, yeah, I'd like to keep them because I'd like to show that I proved him wrong. I said, absolutely. And this just goes to show when you're facing adversity in life, when it feels like all of the odds are stacked up against you, when you put your mind to something that anything is possible, I said, frame it and put it up on your wall. Because I said, I can guarantee you're going to see moments like this down the road.
And as parents and teachers, if we can learn to support our kids through that process versus jumping in to save them. At preschool, we have, in the winter, we go outside and we have outdoor bags with all of our gear. And I implore parents, I say, if you forget your child's outdoor bag, please do not run home to get it. Let's start letting kids experience these tiny opportunities to define the fight, to become resilient. I said, they aren't going to like using our set of snow pants and coats. They'll sniff it and say it doesn't smell like mine. It's not the wrong color. There will be some tears. Let's acknowledge that. That's not the end of the world. That is the start of showing a child you can do hard things. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doing hard things is not always because it was easy or you wanted to. Sometimes you choose it. Sometimes it chooses you, and you have to find your way through. And to be able to celebrate your children's steps towards it versus feeling my value as a parent is my ability to remove the obstacle.
Right. Well, you're teaching them responsibility. Mm-hmm. You know, my son went to school with too tight of pants on today because, you know what, I tried waking him up and he was a slow mover. I'm like, all right, well, I guess you're going to have some tight pants today, boy. I mean, you roll with it. And we learned, I mean, we forgot things when we were younger. Our parents were working. They could never just at the drop of a hat or a drop of a dime, just turn their car and come and save us, right? And like you said, is it the end of the world for you to face something? Because A, you either didn't put in the time, you forgot, so on and so forth. So now this is a lesson of opportunity here where it's like, okay, maybe I need to write myself a note. Maybe I need to pack my bag in the morning so that or at night, so that I'm ready for the morning. And it's starting to instill that, you know, the responsibility and adult-like behavior, I want to say, but it's not adult, it's just responsibility.
And in the nurtured heart approach, what we call that is providing clarity. Too often what we do come in is swooping in with what's the punishment and the consequence. But we can start at the beginning by saying, here's the deal. If you wake up late, I'm not giving you a ride. I'm not calling the school. So let's just set that up beforehand with clarity. And every time that they hustle and do make it on the bus, every time they don't call you because of those things, you can say, wow, you are really figuring this out. You're finding the resources that you have, making the best of a moment, and those are the opportunities they learn from.
For you as a parent, and even before being a parent, how did your parents respond to you growing up, right? So you're talking about the nurtured heart approach. Were they individuals that had patience and then all of a sudden, okay, once the patients were gone, then it became more of a raised tone of voice where you got yelled at? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I was raised by an incredibly strong single mom, and hearing about the nurtured heart approach and seeing me use it with my kids, she says, I'm so filled with guilt. She was a screamer, you're grounded, those types of things, but she didn't know better. We know better now. And it is amazing how she has grandparented just by the example she's seen. And people will say, it sounds like you're a really cushy parent. I'm a much more
receptive,
but also strict might be the word. I'm really clear about what the expectations are, and I'm going to celebrate you all around that. But this isn't a let kids walk all over you approach.
And that's beautiful because, you know what, I'm learning as I'm sitting here too, because, you know, my parents were very strict growing up. My mom was more the empath. My dad was like, all right, if you guys are going to fight again at 5 o'clock, you're going to be out scooping cow manure, right? And it was a follow through. Yeah. It really was. But I think too, you know, with being a single parent, you're trying to be the disciplinary, you're trying to be the empath, you're trying to be the teacher, the provider, all of these different things. I'm not going to lie, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So then it's a balancing act of, okay, who am I today, so on and so forth. Yeah, there's clarity, but there's moments where I'm going to be honest, my patient's like last night. If you're going to come off with a little bit of an attitude, it's not sitting well with me. You had mentioned the nurtured heart as one of the approaches, but now you also have the nature-based, which I love, right? Because we all know that nature is amazing, and studies have proven how much it, helps with overall health, well-being, mindset. Do you want to break down what you guys are currently doing and what that structure looks like for the nature-based program?
Yes, the nature-based program really caught our attention when we started having a lot of families come to our door saying, my child has been kindly asked to leave our typical preschool environment, and we're longing and looking for something that will better meet their needs. And so we have the nurtured heart approach, but sometimes even that, kids would struggle. And realizing that kids who find sitting still, sustaining attention, a typical classroom is really difficult. So rarely do you find kids in the outdoors who are unable to attend.
Right.
And so we started looking into different approaches, and we landed on nature-based, because this time outdoors allows kids this large motor movement. It allows open-ended play. There is so much to be learned. Kids are looking at the flora, the fauna. They are taking some risks. We've really eliminated risks in young children's lives. I know when I was young and outdoors and unsupervised in a safe community, we jumped off of trees that I know my mom would have said, don't you dare. And you learn where was just right. What was easy?
Right.
What was, ooh, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too fast. On those hills when you wiped it out on your bike and no one was there to scoop me up, you learned from it.
Or you got hurt. I mean, right? It's like the reality. We were jumping off the garage roof as girls. It's like we would climb out the upstairs window, get on top of the garage, and then jump off. And eventually we got blankets to try to catch each other. But it was like my parents didn't even bat an eye. It was
But look at that problem solving.
Right.
Look at that engineering. What do we need to do?
Don't jump off roofs.
Amen.
Just throwing that out there.
But that building with what you have, and what if you don't have the perfect dress up thing, or you're outdoors and you want to play babies? Right. Guess what? There's an acorn, there's a stick, there's leaves. There are things that really enhance a kid's life. And so we have 6 people on staff who are completing the Cedar Song training, which is based out of the state of Washington, where nature preschool and camps are a big deal. And actually on Saturday, a group of us were online on a Zoom meeting. And as some of them are in Florida and Mexico doing this approach, and they're outside all day, all year, they're like, wow, Fargo, how cold does it get? And we started sharing. So there will be some challenges, but even bringing nature in, we have a bird house that we can watch birds and get pictures sent to us. There's creative ways to help kids reignite their passion for play in an outdoor space where it's not labeled too much, too fast, too busy.
Right. The only thing that's the idea that's coming into my head is having your kids come out to the farm, get on snowshoes, get out in nature, go through. They can be around the chickens, the peacocks, so on and so forth. Come wintertime, it's like I think we put ourselves in a box thinking, we can't. But the reality is, as long as the temperature and the wind chill, we can, it's all about, there are solutions. But like you said, you're bringing in animals in, or different ways, so that nature is still a piece of that puzzle. And we are challenged with that, but we're not defeated with that either.
One of the parents said, I can't believe in the few short weeks that my child has been in your program, how she's noticing, Mom, do you see the clouds and how they change throughout the day? Did you know that over here we saw a crane, it has these long legs, and we're looking at, like, just getting kids to show a natural interest in things Rarely does a kid say, I have so much interest in a worksheet. Please, Mom, can I do more? Not to say there's anything wrong with worksheets and doing. Some kids enjoy that, but the natural world is always around us and available to look and to stop and to learn. And it asks us to pause and just observe.
And I think we've each had moments in our lives too where stress can be, low, it can be high, it can be in between, but it's always a safe place to go to. So I know when I'm at that point where like, oh man, I just need to literally breathe. It's stepping outside, taking your shoes off, walking the grass, feeling the sun hit your skin. Simple moments and simple things, but yet we make them complicated to get to when they're literally right outside our door. So I love the fact that you had mentioned that their child had started to observe. And observation, I think, has really gone out the window because the screens are always there. And when we start taking away those screens, or, oh, I'm bored. Look outside the window. There's a lot of things going on a car ride. There's a lot of things going on outside. Start looking at the different signs. Look at the different trees. Look at how the topography is changing as you go further in different areas. It's amazing, though, just how much we have shifted from literally what's right around us to we want to get that quick dopamine hit. Whether it's a video, whether it's an image, whatever that is, when it's like those are the things that are actually causing us stress versus taking from. So I love the fact that you guys are diving in and pulling back kids into that grounding, that natural grounding, which has been proven to help with anxiety, with depression, because we know that the numbers have skyrocketed for kids, and it's only going to continue to go up because, I've shared this numerous times on the show, 2030, 158 million children were labeled as obese. By 2030, it's going to be 254 million. So we're going from 20% to 60% in obesity levels, which then also increases everything, mental health, emotional, physical, all of those different things where it's like, okay, hold on. We have to put on the brakes as adults and for our children. We need to start reconnecting with what's right around us or right in front of us.
One of my staff on that group call said her biggest takeaway is that nature is something that we have to go do something in. We can just be in nature. If you're thinking, well, what would I do with my child out there? You don't have to do anything. You can just go and be in nature. And we can set an example, and I think it's hardest for us. Mm-hmm. Sit under the tree and just let your child play.
Right. Well, I think it's like the schedule, right? We've got caught up in it's got to be a schedule. It's got to be an action.
Well, and they're going from one activity to the next that it's hard to find time. And also those families who have been in our nature program have shared their appetite and their sleeping has been amazing since all this fresh air and this large motor play has helped rest time. And we really focus on whole food, dye-free eating with our kids in both of our programs. And people will say, I don't really believe that dye plays a role in kids' lives. And I say, I've seen kids where it's really made a huge impact. And if it's not so for you, it doesn't mean that it isn't others. And I would challenge you to try dye-free with your kids for a few weeks and see what impact that has on their mental health, on the amount of tantrums, on sleep and activity.
Everybody's going to have different beliefs, right? And when we look at preparing food, it's going to what is easy sometimes versus what is healthy, what is nutritious. And the reality is it is proven that when you are utilizing organic foods or growing your own foods, that everything starts to shift, right? What you put into your body is how your body is going to respond. And you had mentioned sleep. So if you're eating healthy, your sleep is going to be better. Your breathing is going to be better. Your mindset, all of those different things start to go towards, I should say up because they're increasing. But again, it's this quick fix society. Everything has to be fast. It has to be instant. And I think that's the biggest problem that we're trying to solve is it doesn't. Even the fitness industry, it's so flawed that, oh, here, take this pill. And that everything is going to be okay. The reality is no. And you're doing an amazing thing where you're incorporating healthy, clean foods, but then you're also incorporating nature, but you're incorporating love, which is the biggest piece of the puzzle, where I think that's missing. People burn out. Let's be honest, right? Especially in the teaching industry. We look at, in the school districts, larger schools, teachers are crying for help, but so are the students. And integrating the approach that you're utilizing and recognizing that a lot of kids may or may not be receiving love, or they're receiving love in different forms where a new type of love can feel uncomfortable for them. But I'm grateful that you are starting at such a young age with the kids, and showing them like, man, this is the foundation. This is where we want you to excel and move forward through life. So I can't give you enough kudos, Jana, on what you've created and what you continue to grow at Peace Academy.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to mention we also have monthly parent education opportunities. We have community partners. We have pediatricians sharing research about what does it look like when kids don't get enough sleep. We have all kinds of topics. You can check out our website. Those are free to anyone in our community. We provide free childcare so that you can attend. If you don't want to come in, they live on our website so that you can get access to this great information. And once in a while, people will say, oh, Peace Academy, it's such a bougie preschool. I'd like everyone in our community to know we accept childcare assistance. We also have given out over $70,000 in needs-based tuition assistance since opening 2.5 years ago. Every child deserves to have a high-quality early education opportunity.
You were talking briefly about different scholarships that are available, but continuing education, I think, is very, very important. So not just for our children to learn, but parents, like we always have things to learn. You don't know what you don't know until you're like, wow, okay, these approaches are amazing. So what are some of the different things you had mentioned on your website? There's different type of trainings, playbacks. What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's many opportunities for not only parents, anyone in our community can come to our parent education. If you're a grandparent, a nanny, you work in a childcare somewhere else in town, please come. We choose people who have research-based information. We have a nutritionist that we work with. We talk a lot about how do you introduce new foods to kids? Do parents know it takes 17 exposures to a food? Parents will try it once or twice and say, my kid won't eat that. Nope, maybe not on the third and fourth, but helping parents through that. We've also done sessions on sleep, on occupational therapy. We really focus on early intervention. And early intervention, some people think, oh, you're just looking for what's wrong with kids, or you're looking to put a label on kids. No, I'm looking for, is there a skill or something that's not quite there that if they had would really help them accelerate in their physical movement, or in how they approach problems, or how they make friends. We want to get kids those skills at a time when their brain is most malleable and ready to receive that information. So all of our sessions are held at Peace Academy. They're an hour long. We video them. We got a generous grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So this year we'll have some more professional looking videos for a few of our sessions, and they can be found on our website, pafargo.org.
Beautiful. And like you said, it's like when you're doing testing and you find that there might be a gap, it's important to see, okay, so what does this gap need to make sure that it's helping enrich them? And I agree with you 100% when we talk about labeling. I'm not a fan of labeling kids, oh, they have this, oh, they have that, because then they take that name badge with them wherever they go. And it's a way for them to feel, not all kids, sometimes, like, okay, well, I've got this badge, I can fall back to it, or this is who I am. And the reality is, it's not who you are. It's a fact of, okay, we just have some different things to work on, some things to polish so that you're not stuck or you don't feel alone when you're navigating onto this path, right? Because I think you've seen it. There's different kids that pick up quickly, and sometimes they need just a little bit more of a hand, like reaching back, okay, I'm coming with you. And I'm assuming that for you, like when you see that somebody, let's just say diagnose, because that's typically the name of our, what's going on within our culture. We're going to diagnose with somebody with something. How do you work with kids if that label's been placed on them so that they don't carry that label with them?
Right. And I want to be clear, at times a diagnosis is required to get insurance to cover the care that they need. So we work closely with families to say, we talk about it as I wonders. As preschool teachers, we're not authorized to diagnose anything, but we want to get screenings and information and get them the best services possible and connect them, and to not let it label your child. We even say in the Nurtured Heart approach, if you have a child who has ADHD and they're on medication, there shouldn't be shame if that is what you've gone to, but let's not let medication get the kudos for being the winner,
or be the first thing, right? Or
exactly.
We
want to give you a lot of skills so that you can use before medication, after medication, and that your child gets the benefit of, could you still be doing the things you used to do even without medication? Yeah, I could be. So this is you. This is you gaining skills. Let's not give all the credit to the medication or to the diagnosis. Let's really empower kids with the tools that they need.
Well, and I think, too, it's giving them the tools before they necessarily jump to the medication. I think our society in general thinks, oh, I have this, so I need to take this. Instead of, okay, what are the other approaches? Now, I had blood work that was done a month ago. And when we're looking at those numbers, it was for my thyroid. I was experiencing a lot of different things, right? So headaches, hands and feet tingling, nausea, things that I've never experienced. Started to have weight gain. Within one day, I gained 4 pounds, and it kept creeping. So I went to a naturopath. I had her take all of my blood work, came back where my thyroid antibodies, if it's above 60, it's considered high. Mine was 1,425, right? So it was a big, But my thought process in being within the health and wellness industry, it was like, I'm not jumping to a medication. Okay, so I see there's a concern here. What can I do to make sure that I'm trying to shift that tide, which completely shifted my nutrition? I shouldn't say necessarily completely, because I eat pretty strict for the most part. But now it's like, by shifting a couple different things within my nutrition, I don't have any of those symptoms or feels after 4 weeks. So what I can say is, if you have a child or you yourself as an adult start experiencing different things and you're not quite certain what they are, okay, you may have some numbers in front of you. Take the steps to look at what are the most natural ways first that I can look at, ways to swing this the other direction. That's
and when dealing with kids, our famous 3 is, how are they eating, sleeping, and pooping?
Amen.
When kids are not acting themselves or are having some bizarre behaviors, I can almost say without fail, 100% of parents like, well, they poop once every 4 or 5 days. All right, let's start there. Or they have lots of night waking. Like, really, our bodies are giving us the signs that something is not working. And just sitting with parents. I was a parent. You're just making it day by day.
100%.
Poof, get up, get them fed, dressed, where we need to go, get to a job, come home. It's a lot. And when you can have a support team that is someone who knows your child, loves your child, and wants the absolute best for them, who will sit at the table and say, here's some of my I wonders. Do you have some? Would you go on this journey with us if we walk beside you? Can we help connect you to? We've had a naturopath doc come in and speak about those things. The topics, the best compliment we ever received was a mom said, it's like you live at my house and know what I'm struggling with next. Bingo. Putting good information in front of families at those moments when it's really hitting them.
When they need it. Jenna, I can't thank you enough for sharing your information, the approach that you have with teaching children. What is the best way for individuals to contact you, or your website that you want to share with the listeners today?
Yes, we love to give tours, whether you have a child or grandchild, or you just want to come as a community member to see what's possible. Stop on over 3201 Fickner Drive, or check us out at pafargo.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing everybody next week on Define the Fight. Thank you, Jana, for your time.